What is up, you guys? Glitchiz here, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you the second video in my Everything You Need to Know series for the upcoming release of Once Human. Before I get into the details of the video though, I need to give another big shout out to Starry Studios for sponsoring these videos. They were kind enough to give me early access to a test client that kind of mimics the full release version of the game to allow me to record some of this footage and show off some of the new features that are going to be included in the game at full release. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. The video that I wanted to bring you guys today is regarding, in my opinion, one of the most important decisions that you have to make before any other decision in the actual game, and that is picking what type of server you want to join. Now, in the full release of Once Human, they've divided the server types up in between PvE servers and PvP servers, and depending on which one you choose, the seasonal events on that particular server drastically change. So I wanted to kind of summarize all the features that you're going to be getting with both, so you have a good understanding of what you will have and what you will not have, and kind of make your decision a little bit easier when it comes time to create your first character. Now, right out the gate, when you go to create that character and you log in on day one, you're going to be asked to pick a server. Now, the first thing you're going to see, obviously I only have two options on the test server, but on the real release, there's going to be probably half a dozen to a dozen of these that you can choose from, and there's going to be certain tags that you're going to want to look out for, first of which is going to be server population. They're going to be either low, medium, or high. That determines how many active players are already on that server. If you're coming into the game a little bit later than release, I would recommend going on a earlier lifespan, lower population server, because the progression that the community on that server makes over a certain period of time determines what phase of the season that they're going to be in. And if you join a high population server later in the game, you might miss out on the introduction of some of those early seasonal events. So lower population server, an earlier lifespan server, you're going to be right there in the beginning with everyone else, and you'll kind of be on the same playing field. Everyone will be about the same level. You won't have to worry about other players being higher geared than you, things like that. Obviously, if you're playing on day one, though, it's pretty much going to be an even playing field. Everyone's going to be jumping in at the same time, so it doesn't really matter at that point. But if you're coming in later, that is something to think about. But once you decide basically the server size population, you then have to choose whether or not you want PvE or PvP. Now, before I get into the nitty gritty and all the actual details, and you don't want to watch the entire video, I think I can throw up this quick little visual guide that Azel83, I believe, on YouTube was kind enough to make, and this has been shared across Discords or in Reddit and things like that multiple times. It's kind of a quick little cheat sheet that shows some of the major things that you get and don't get depending on the server type that you choose. The first one that I think I should go over is PvP, because there's a couple more things to talk about. Now, on PvP servers, if we log in here, I can also kind of show off how this ties into your seasonal progression. The main thing that you get on a PvP server starting out is going to be the drop of Echo Stones. Now, if you go into your seasonal banner in the escape window, this brings up all of the different phases of the season on your server. This will obviously reset at a certain point once all the different phases are completed. But in the beginning, certain features are going to be locked behind which phase you're on, and they're going to slowly start bringing in, and the world is going to slowly start changing depending on what phase you're going to. Now, on PvP servers, for example, on like phase 1 or phase 2, they're going to start dropping something called an Echo Stone. Now, there's going to be these giant sky whales that fly around the sky, and they're going to periodically, during a designated time frame, a time window of the day, start dropping these PvP Echo Stones. PvP Echo Stones are a PvP exclusive sort of cortex, similar to the cortexes that you're going to be getting on a PvE server. Only the difference with these are the vicinity of the stones are going to be flagged for PvP. So the second you start getting near one, players can start taking you out and fighting over the Echo Stone. Now, you're probably wondering, why is it so important to get these Echo Stones? It's important because once you bring it back to your base, if you can successfully purify an Echo Stone, you get a Starchrome reward, which you wouldn't get from a Cortex normally. So it is a basically PvP centric stone that gives you more Starcom rewards than typically that you would on a PvE server. The only big downside is, and this kind of leads me into the next topic that you saw on that checklist, is workshop defenses. Normally, when you're doing cortex extractions and you're doing territory purifications, you only have to worry about PvE enemies and deviants that spawn and try and attack your base. But if you're trying to purify an echo stone, your entire base then gets flagged for PvP, and other players and other clans and warbands have the opportunity to attack you while you're purifying and try and destroy your base, destroy your resonator container, and steal that stone for themselves. So that's another big thing you're going to have to worry about on PvP servers. But if you're into PvP, it's actually pretty fun. The other thing that you have to take into consideration is that if you're big into big scale PvP battles, you won't be able to do any of that on a PvE server. Later in the phases, after you get the phase that starts dropping Echo Stones, you're eventually later on going to unlock basically guild versus guild or warband versus warband battles, which are basically giant frontier battles where different hives and warbands have to clash with one another to take over these frontier territories, and that is a great place to get things like premium barrel fuel and some really rare resources that are good for later game fights that clans are always going to be fighting over. So as the season progresses, you're going to start unlocking the features for larger scale PvP battles. So that's another thing you get to look forward to if you're on a PvP server that you wouldn't otherwise get on a PvE server. So the basically giant warband battles, the Echo Stones, the special Echo Stones, and workshop defenses, none of that will be on PvE servers. The one downside to a PvP server, though, is you miss out on the world bosses. So the cool thing with PvE servers is instead of going a more PvP-centric route and during each phase unlocking things that unlock more PvP-centric events, we get things that are more PvE-centric. So say on phase 2, the Prime War easy mode starts. The Prime War is a basically larger scale activity where certain bigger, larger world bosses start spawning, and multiple hives and things like that can team up together to cooperatively take down large-scale monsters in a large-scale battle. And ultimately, by the end of a PvE season, you go against the Manibus, which is a giant tentacle boss that comes down from the sky. It's a pretty epic battle, and if you're into kind of PvE related content, it's a really unique event that you will only be able to experience if you're on a PvE based server. You don't get any of that on a PvP server. So that is the big difference, is the changes that are in this season. Everything on a PvE server, all the phases that you unlock are going to be geared strictly towards PvE world events, and on a PvP server, all the phases that you unlock are going to be strictly geared toward PvP-oriented world events. So that's the big thing to take into consideration. Now, a little footnote that I would like to mention. If you're like me and you do like the kind of world bosses and the big, large-scale cooperative PvE type boss fight content, but you have a little itch for PvP once in a while, I have some good news for you. In the full release of the game, there is a feature where even though you're on a PvE server, you can manually opt in to flag yourself for a chaos state, it's called, which will temporarily put you in a PvP state. And when you're in that state, you can then attack, just like you were on a PvP server, other players that they themselves have also flagged for PvP as well. Now, it's going to be interesting and probably pretty rare that you see two people that are just randomly on a PvP server flagged for PvP, or a PvE server flagged for PvP. But one instance that I think would be really cool that I'm actually considering maybe making a whole series about on the channel is sort of like gladiator battles almost, where I can make a whole kind of series with people who like PvE but also like PvP can come join the server, and maybe once a month we're going to host almost like a gladiator arena tournament where players can come in a controlled environment, and maybe once a month we create like a custom battle arena, basically battleground, where certain players in a 1v1 situation or maybe even 2v2 or 3v3 situation in a controlled environment can then flag themselves temporarily for PvP and duke it out for potential rewards that we agree upon in in advance. So there is some cool things you can do there potentially if you want to take the time to set that up. The other cool thing that they added in the recent updates with the game is a new basically public event called the Cargo Shuffle. This is a random event spawn that a basically caravan truck carrying a jellyfish deviant. You'll see a truck icon basically driving around on the map. If you go to interact with that activity, that is actually a PvP activity. As soon as the truck gets destroyed, every player in the immediate vicinity instantly gets flagged for PvP because the jellyfish attaches to one of them and kind of turns them evil according to the lore of the event. And basically in that short time window, all the players can start shooting and killing each other, but it is basically a controlled environment still. You get unlimited respawns. You can just keep coming back, and it's just a fun little kind of mini game where you get a taste of PvP without actually being on a PvP server. And then as soon as the event ends, you get some cool unique currencies that you can use for other items within the game that are purchased from special vendors in all the major towns. So there is certain ways here and there on a PvE server where you can kind of scratch that itch and get a little bit of a PvP experience still, but unless, in my opinion, you have a really coordinated group of multiple people that all enjoy PvP, if you coming into a PvP only server later in the game, it's going to be really hard, in my opinion, to take advantage of some of those later season activities, because by that point, a lot of the bigger guilds are probably going to have control of all the major territories, and it's going to be really hard to coordinate without a larger group of people to take some of those territories down. So if you want a little more relaxed experience that can kind of focus more on cooperative play where guilds can actually work together, then I would recommend the PvE servers. When it comes to Starcrum, with the exception of the Echo Stone extractions where you get a little bit extra on PvP servers, all the other features within the game that would typically give you Starcrum as rewards are going to be equal across the board, so you don't have to worry about missing out on anything there. We also, if you watch my previous video, are getting thousands of Starcrum for free from the seasonal battle pass feature that's going to be coming to the game, so have that to look forward to as well. So there's still plenty of ways that you're going to be able to interact with the different currencies in the game, regardless of what server that you join, but I wanted to let you guys know the key differences based on the seasonal progression that you're going to experience and the changes that you're going to experience depending on which server you make. So hopefully with this information, it makes the decision a little bit easier for you guys. You kind of know what you get and don't get depending on which choice you make. And yeah, last thing I could say is join in, have fun. Me and my buddies are going to probably be on a PvE server. I've actually spoken to Maddie Gorm, another partnered creator with Once Human. We're looking to try and join up on the same server so we can have some bigger community events and kind of collaborate with each other. So that should be pretty fun. So yeah, I look forward to that. But yeah, if you found this information informative, if you enjoyed it, be sure to smash that like button, comment down below. I appreciate all of your guys' feedback. Lastly, if you want to keep up to date on all the future content, like I said, I have a few more sponsored videos that are going to be dropping over the next couple days. Be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of those future updates. Lastly, if you want to join a community of like-minded gamers, feel free to check the links down in the description and join us on the Discord. We have hundreds and hundreds of players in there, many of which are going to be playing Once Human on day one. And we also have designated Once Human channels in there for warband signups and things like that. So hopefully you join us up here soon and we see you guys around. But until the next one, hope everyone has a great day and we'll see you all later.